Okay, guys, this is going to be a long video, but a very good one, I believe. And so please watch till the end and then participate with me in this debate, this discussion in the comment section, okay? So in the wake of the Uvalde school shooting by this madman, there have been any number of groups and individuals promoting different proposals, from disarmament of civilians to putting new restrictions on the purchase of firearm and ammunition, to arming teachers, every little thing. But one thing that I haven't heard a lot of, that I think to me seems like a good solution, is closing the public schools. Now hear me out. From 2000 to 2018, 94% of school shootings have happened at public schools. Now, if in 94% of the school shootings, the shooter had been taken down by an armed teacher, or if the weapon used was the same exact weapon every time, then both sides of the political aisle, the left and right, would have some compelling evidence to support their position, right? But the fact that 94% of these shootings happened at public schools should also be compelling evidence that maybe we should consider focusing more on the school, or focusing as much on the school as we do on the shooting. So Thomas Eckert of the Mises Institute wrote this. Listen to what he said. "Abolishing public schools is good for everyone regardless of politics. It doesn't require confiscating private property from uninvolved third parties or turning vast swaths of law-abiding citizens into felons overnight. It doesn't require more tax dollars levied against property owners, regardless of whether they have school children. It doesn't involve forcing people to be around guns against their will. And most of all, it doesn't require a sweeping federal overhaul to be implemented, thereby forcing a one-size-fits-all solution onto more than 300 million people." Now, think of it this way. If you knew that crazy people were going around to all the car washes in town, putting some sort of red dye into the soap reservoirs, wouldn't you think twice about going to the car wash? Wouldn't you consider at least washing your car at home? Now, this analogy is not meant to equate children with cars, not at all. What it is meant to do is point out that in something as insignificant as washing a car, we would make better decisions than we do about the education and the welfare of our priceless children. It seems at once dangerous and neglectful for parents to send their children to a place where the most deadly of dangers is even possible. Sure, there are 6% of shootings that take place that aren't at public school, but what about the 94% that take place there? Why run that risk? For an extra vacation? For 1,000 more square feet in your home? For a newer iPhone? I mean, is that why we're doing this? While we're sending our kids off to public schools? I'm serious. We live in a time when millions of self-described conservatives send their children to government-funded schools where their own family values are mocked and described as silly and out of touch. They send them to school for 8 or 9 hours of indoctrination, and then another 4 or 5 hours of homework after that. And then those parents must deprogram their children, explaining why they don't agree with the practices and principles that their teachers, people in positions of authority, that their parents willingly take them to be taught. They have to deprogram them from the things their teachers tell them. Do you understand the contradictory nature of that, especially to a child who isn't as sophisticated as an adult? This child is being dropped off at a place and told to respect and obey these people, these teachers. Then they get taught things contrary to their own family's principles and beliefs. And they come home and their parents must complain and deprogram them for what they've been taught by the people their parents told them to listen to? And for what? These conservatives, guys, it's government funded. You hate socialism. So why do we accept socialist education? We accept that, right? Everybody sort of has this tacit agreement not to say anything. It's like the third rail, right? Don't mention that the public schools are socialist. We're conservatives. And all this is apart from the legitimate fear of violence, not only from armed sociopaths and psychopaths, but from the bullying that keeps so many of our kids in a perpetual state of fear of going to school in the first place. Americans' devotion and support of public schools baffles me, and it reminds me of this quotation from James Madison in Federalist 46, that the governments and the people of the states should silently and patiently behold the gathering storm, and yet continue to supply the materials until it should be prepared to burst on their own heads, must be the incoherent dream of a delirious jealousy or the misguided exaggerations of a counterfeit zeal, and not the sober apprehensions of genuine patriotism. Are we suffering from the misguided exaggerations of a counterfeit zeal when it comes to the relevance and the role of public schools in this country? Do we not stop and consider the cost, physical, intellectual, and psychological, of our support for public school by dropping off our children there? And the contradictory psychological gymnastics it takes to justify going there, and then telling them to listen to their teachers and obey, and they come home, tell them their teachers are wrong, and then go and talk to our neighbors about how bad the school system is. But tomorrow we're going to drop you off there. Regardless of what you hear us saying about your teachers, we're going to drop you off there tomorrow. Oh, yeah. And there's a chance you might get killed. I'll close with this question posed by Eckert in the Mises Institute article. We're often told that enough is enough when it comes to school shootings, and I agree. Enough with the blatant partisan talking points. Enough with making excuses for outdated education systems to protect the interests of union and lobbyists at the expense of children's lives. And enough with using the poor as a scapegoat for the necessity of public schools when they suffer the most from the underperformance. If we want to get serious about stopping future school shootings, we need to seriously discuss the future of public schools in America. End quote. And I agree with Mr. Eckert. I think the things in this video, if you soberly and seriously consider what I've said, there should be a more obvious debate, a more open and prevalent debate of whether or not we should keep this system of public schooling in America. Why we do it, the psychological, intellectual, and now physical repercussions of keeping these places open, not to mention the fact that millions of you who would describe yourself as conservatives and constitutionalists, the public school system is socialism. It is socialism. And we can't have this tacit agreement to not call it what it is. It's socialist. And it's harming our children. In fact, it's killing them. So this is my contribution to the debate. Please, I would appreciate it if you would contribute your thoughts in the comments. Thanks, guys.